Sarah, you're being so lit right now.
Brandy, quit being so lit.
Brandy, you at the party right now, you're just like being completely lit, and I like don't know how to handle it.
I'm trying to study for my sociology exam.
Yeah, you can't be getting lit in the dorm room. In the common, I can go to the common room, but like you're gonna blast this like Lil Pump Kanye West song, and I like don't want to have any of it. Bed. I'm trying to study for the Babylon 5 exam, and you're gonna keep playing this music. Brittany, you know I told you I don't like it when you invite your boyfriend over. He smells weird, and he always brings over that weird food, and it's like, I don't know what's in that. Excuse me. Brittany. Yo, what up? My name's... How's it going? I'm on the varsity football team. I like Friends. Favorite show's probably How I Met Your Mother. He's so mystical.
He's spiritual and not religious.
He has a tattoo of his mom. It says on it. In like with like a big heart on it. It's so cute.
Yeah.
So where were you born? Cleveland. What part of Cleveland? Oh, the part of Cleveland. Mm-hmm. Oh, whoa. Is that near, like, Poughkeepsie? No.
No, that's in New York.
State. How would you say that? All
right, I'm ready to go.
That bit's got legs. All right, time.is, baby.
It was the dawn of the third age of mankind. 10 years after the Earth-Minbari War. The Babylon Project was a dream given form. Its goal, to prevent another war by creating a place where humans and aliens could work out their differences peacefully. It's a port of call, home away from home for diplomats, hustlers, entrepreneurs, and wanderers. Humans and aliens wrapped in 2,500,000 tons of spinning metal, all alone in the night. It can be a dangerous place, but it's our last best hope for peace. This is the story of the last of the Babylon stations. The year is 2258. The name of the place is Babylon 5.
Hello and welcome to Chats, a television podcast, Season 6, Chatzylon 5. My name is Alan, and I'm joined by a moon-faced assassin of joy. It's Magellan. Hi, Magellan.
I'm gonna kill ya.
Oh my god, he's running around with a little shanky knife. I'm so scared. Oh my god, he's poking everyone. Oh my god, that's the president you just... Oh my god. Oh no, he's bleeding out. Oh no.
I'm dead.
No. Oh. How's it going, the spirit of the gremlin Magellan?
It's going good, man. I've reincarnated as just an average Joe.
Just a regular-faced assassin of joy.
Yeah.
What the hell does moon-faced mean? Like, shaped like the moon?
I think he's drunk.
Oh.
I don't know. Maybe.
He's drunk.
Donkey.
He's drunk donkey. Here on Chatzylon 5, we talk about television shows, and specifically this season, we talk about Babylon 5. This week, we watched Season 1, Episode 3, Born to the Purple, as well as Season 1, Episode 4, Infection. We're going to get right into it by talking about Born to the Purple, which was written by Larry DiTillio, directed by Bruce Seth Green. It aired February 9th, 1994, and it takes place between Tuesday the 22nd and Thursday the 24th of March, 2258. John, what happens in this episode?
Londo's career is in jeopardy when a beautiful enslaved person seduces him and steals a sensitive computer file. Meanwhile, Garibaldi investigates an unauthorized use of a restricted communications channel. Alan, what did you think of Born to the Purple?
Well, I want to start by saying I never really figured out what the purple files are other than important. They just kind of
confidential information, I guess.
Yeah, he's an ambassador, and this is a ship full of ambassadors. Any files you take off of this ship are probably going to be important, unless it's like some guy on the down belows, like the down below. Is that what it's called? Yeah, his just like drawings of like his Arthur fan art or something. That's not important.
Yeah, maybe it's locations of like bases or like plans or I don't know, spy contacts or something like that.
Entirely possible.
Yeah.
So this episode, I thought it was pretty fun. It goes a lot of places, and it's mostly a characterful episode with a lot of like good comedy and good lines here and there. Like it's just fun. It's very like it's the more actiony episode, I would say, of these two.
Yeah.
Because the second one just kind of like backloads all of its action into the fourth act. But yeah, I love Londo. And this episode starts with some really good Londo stuff. He is at this sexy bar watching the cool dancer with the very, very cool hair. It's like 90% shaved, and then she just has like a ponytail in the back. And he's all excited, and he's like having a good time with that. And then I think Jakar comes by, and he says, of all things in life, our female's not the best. Our female's not the finest. And then Jakar is like, man, Londo, of all the dumb shit you've ever said, that one I agree with. All right. It's like
toxic masculinity knows no bounds.
Bros before them all. So if there's anything for them to bond over, I guess it's women. That's fine.
Yeah, whatever.
I wasn't sold on this one right away because the idea of like Londo has sex with like a pretty dancer lady and then things go bad like doesn't necessarily sound very exciting. But like I said, it means that there's a lot of like chasing and tension, and we learn about like the different class politics of the Centauri, and like, and then I ended up liking it more than the setup led me to think I would. What did you think overall?
Yeah. I share those sentiments that at the beginning of the episode I was kind of trying to find my sea legs a little bit in terms of how steady I felt with enjoying it. But by the end of it, I was completely invested in the emotional relationship between Londo and Adira, and I was very sad that she had to go.
Yeah.
And this entire emotional arc for me is punctuated by the side scenes of Garibaldi and Ivanova.
Yeah.
Right, that's her name, right?
Yes.
Where I just, like, I must have been asleep. I must have, every time it cut to them, I must have fallen asleep and woken up when they cut back. Because that plot did not stick with me at all.
Oh, that's tragic because it's really good. Oh. I mean, it kind of isn't, to be fair, it isn't good during the whole thing. It's the last scene that makes it all worth it.
Sure, the last scene as a scene is great.
It's good, yeah.
Can we just talk about that plot first and get it out
sure.
of the way?
It's just that,
totally
right?
unconnected to the rest. So, like, Garibaldi's like, somebody's using this communications channel.
The gold
I gotta
channel,
figure
which
out.
I like.
The gold channel. I got to figure out who's doing it. Which part of the problem is that I didn't catch that was what was going on at the beginning, because I guess my brain is just like, oh, it's Garibaldi and Ivanova. They're probably the B plot that I'm not going to care about, so I tuned them out. Which I would imagine is probably still best practice. It just happened to bite me in this case. But so then every scene they're checking in of like, well, have you figured it out? No, I haven't figured it out yet, but I'm going to figure it out. Well, when you figure it out, tell me you figured it out. All right, back to trying to figure it out.
Will do. Yeah.
And so there was no point at which I was invested in it. And then all of a sudden there's this scene towards the end of the episode where Ivanova's on the holo, do they call it like a holo call, or is it just a video call, or what do they call it?
It looks like a Skype video call. It doesn't look anything.
It's not a
futuristic.
hologram.
Right, it's on a screen.
Yeah, so it's a call. She's on a call with her dad, and then her dad launches into this like, I'm dying, I wasn't a great dad, I should have been like proud of you and like loved you, and I didn't. And she's like, come on. And he's like, no, I didn't love you. And I was totally blindsided by it because I just was not paying attention to this plot at all. So this scene came out of nowhere of, oh, by the way, it's her fucking dad and he's dead.
He's dying right in front of you.
And I wasn't ready to invest in that because the plot hadn't gotten me there. So it came totally out of left field.
So I think the only thing that kind of had me a little bit ready for that was now Ivanova has had more than one plot where it seems like she's just being aloof and mean, but it turns out that her aloofness comes from emotions and from something, her connection to people. relating back to her talking to Talia last time and the whole like the Psycorp thing. This time her interactions with Garibaldi are the typical like, don't worry about it. It's dumb. It's probably nothing. You're wasting your time as usual. Blah, blah, blah. And then he's like, I think it's the Russian, what is he called? The Russian Consortium. He thinks it's a Russian Consortium hacker, which like Russian hacker is weird thinking emoji. And he's all into that. And she's like, don't worry about it. Our people wouldn't do anything like that. And she's not like trying to be evasive. She's just trying to make him feel useless. And like, oh, maybe I am wasting my time. But of course, Garibaldi is very persistent and he gets there and we start with the shot of the doctor, and you're like, oh my god, is this like something like Ivanova's like doing some secret bad thing? And then the doctor walks away, and then she just talks to her dad and has this like very like it is sad, but I think what is this 5 episodes into the show, or 3 episodes in, whatever.
3, yeah.
It's a little soon for me to be like, I barely know Ivanova well enough to know that this should like be really sad. It's just like sad because it's sad.
It's too soon to kill her dad in a B plot.
Yeah.
Like it feels like a waste of a really significant emotional moment for her as a character, because I don't know, there's another way to spin this where that could have been the climax of an episode that was about her, and it would have hit more. But here it's sort of like, there isn't really emotional resonance to it. It's more of a kind of expository scene, because it just wasn't placed in a way where it was communicated to me that it was important. And so instead, the point of the scene becomes, okay, like what you were saying, she's cold because her dad was cold or something. But that's a waste of... You had this dad. Don't kill this dad until it's like the best moment to kill this dad.
Yeah.
You got to save your dad kills. Because you also... Now you can't go killing anybody else's dad either.
Yeah, you have a precious few dad kills, or parent kills in general, and you burned one of them on episode 3.
In a B plot.
In a B plot. In a plot for a character...
Where the main plot was about a guy who was like having sex with someone who was spying on him.
Right. It's a very silly A plot, and then it's like, meanwhile, in this B plot. And it also kind of doesn't give Garibaldi much to do other than like he's, motivated, I guess. Like we don't get anything good out of Garibaldi from this episode. That actor doesn't really have a lot to do, other than like be prodding with the hacking stuff. But
he gets a moment at the end where he gets to be like nice and lets it go, which is it's a sweet moment between the two of them, and it shows that he cares, which we learned from both these episodes, that Garibaldi like gives a shit about the people around him.
Yeah.
So that's fine. It's just not a lot going on there.
It's really not. And like, if the show is trying to accelerate us to concluding that, like, yeah, Ivanova, even though she gives off this like really cold demeanor, is like very emotional and empathetic. All right, you did it. But then what? Like, we already have a character who's like very empathetic in Delenn. And I think empathy is something that we should want to see out of every character on this show, considering that it's a ship full of ambassadors who need to understand like the wills of people and the average person. Like, they need to be humanized, because if they're just like, if they stayed the whole show as cold and calculating, then, it would be hard to believe that like these were the people agreed upon to work on this ship. But to shift back to the A plot, and we can talk more about, Londo and empathy and all that stuff.
Sure.
We quickly find out that Adira is working for us, her handler, I guess, her owner, named Trachis, who is a Golian. He looks like a dumb vampire.
Yeah, so first of all, the show decisively tells us that, yes, people do have sex in space. It happens. In case you were wondering if that was going to happen. And, like, Londo likes this lady, and he's late for a meeting where his buddy's playing his 2DS.
He's playing, like, Metal Gear Solid.
Yeah, and he gives a call, and he's like, listen, man, I was just having sex, so you got to cover for me. Tell Jakar I'm not coming. Tell Sinclair I'll be right there. That's basically what he says.
Yeah. Jakar wants to be like, hey, check out my new buddy. Check out my new friend.
Yeah, there's like what's his race? The Narn?
Yeah.
There's a female Narn person who's his co-ambassador now or something.
Na'Toth, I believe is her name.
Yeah.
She's going to come back.
And yeah, so Londo's late to the meeting, and then it's revealed that she is spying on him and she is enslaved to Trachis, who's trying to get this information so he can sell it to the Narn or just like destroy the Centauri for some reason.
Right. He has a thing against I think he has a thing against the Centauri because he was a former slave of theirs. We learn a decent amount about Centauri culture in this episode. Yeah. Again, like it's becoming a weekly thing now, but Londo's like weirdly poignant, like jokey line that actually teaches us a lot was he has two. One of them is he's just talking about the Centauri as people and why he loves Adira, and he says we Centauri live our lives for appearances, which is just fascinating from like a priority perspective. Like that is what they think about is like, how does this look? It's like sort of how in certain Eastern cultures, like the idea of saving face, like it's not about what you do, but it's how you appear to people.
Yeah.
So that's clearly a thing in their culture. And then also, you can be in a relationship with a sort of like a dancer or a person that's considered to be of lower class. And that's not a bad thing as long as they are like A, physically attractive and or B, like interesting to talk to, which gets into this whole like, I honestly, the connection I kept coming back to was that it reminded me of like Pretty Woman, where it was like you're beautiful in your own way, and I want to like parade you around and show the rich people that you can that even like common people can be beautiful.
I really loved Londo in this episode because of that theme that you're talking about, where, and this is what I'm consistently liking about his character. He's sort of in the autumn of his years, and he's looking back on his career and the acclaim that he's amassed and his society, and he's becoming critical of it and cynical about it, in a way where we talked last episode. He said something about how he's apathetic to the idea of peace, because he's seen it fall apart so many times. In this episode, when he and Adira are done having sex and she talks about like his title and how it's so impressive, he's like, oh, that's why you wanted to have sex with me, because I'm an ambassador. Like he's kind of disdainful of that, and he wants to separate himself from it. So it's what we can see in Londo is how achieving your ambitions can actually be can feel restrictive, and can in some ways suppress what you want and who you are. And there are a few lines in the episode that speak to that, similar to what you were saying. She asks, he like wants her to go to dinner with him. He brings her those nice flowers that they made at a Michael's. And she says, what if we're seen together? What will people say? He says, they will say, and he pauses. And he's like, for a moment, he's like, maybe I am worried about this. Well, no, I'm not. They will say, Ambassador Malari is a very fortunate man.
Right.
And then he says, when I look beneath the mask I am forced to wear, this is my favorite part. When I look beneath the mask I'm forced to wear, I see only emptiness. And then I think of you and I say, to hell with appearances. It's like, hell yeah. Hell yeah, Babylon 5. Just
hell yeah, do it up.
Fill me up with that.
He even straight up says, I think maybe in that same scene, he says, I'm nothing but a sad Republican. Like he has acknowledged his position in the world and wants to exist outside of it, but he still feels kind of trapped by this and is doing his best to get away from this like thing about appearances and the culture's obsession with like who you're with and what you look like and how you speak and all this stuff.
Yeah. I genuinely wondered when he finds out. So she goes to dinner with him and they're cutesy, and Sinclair sees them at the restaurant and is like, take a look at them, huh? They're having fun. He says something like that too.
Yeah.
What's her face? And who's he with? The psychic lady?
Talia, yeah.
Talia, thank you. Talia. They're together at dinner, and then Adira somehow poisons Londo, and
she puts it in his drink. Remember?
Yeah. She puts it in his drink, and then she uses that like space age sex toy to extract his truth or something, or to like make him tell the truth. To a question. She steals the files.
I was so confused by the specifics of that, because it's like she put like a sex toy walkie-talkie on his forehead, and she was like, say where your code is, and he's like, the location where my code is under my backpack. And then, but he's unconscious, so it's like she's waking a part of his brain up that can speak. It's very weird.
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
Steals the files, and then she doesn't give them to her boss, but she tries to just escape. And then Londo finds out from Trachis. Trachis is trying to now play it from the other angle. And where I had a genuine wondering was Londo was pissed when he found out the truth of the situation. And simultaneously he learns that she stole files and that she was actually not just a dancer but a slave. And that made me wonder, like that moment where he's really angry, is there a trace of that where he's like, there are these class pressures that are weighing on him and that he has a visceral reaction to? You know what I mean?
Yeah, like if she's a dancer, then like we can work around that, and like we understand, like I don't care what appearance is, but then she's a slave, then we're having a different conversation. And it's like,
right. It made me wonder if it was different, or if what he was upset about was that she stole his stuff,
or that she lied to him. Right.
Yeah.
I think it being an episode and being a plot about appearances and the importance of appearances, like having her betray her appearance, ends up being part of why he gets so mad. It's like, oh, you aren't who I thought you were, and I shared something personal of myself with you, and you're like not even, you don't even care. You weren't even here for that.
Yeah, like you were my path to feeling like myself again,
right,
outside of this sort of prison of my station and what's expected of me.
So what ends up, what's cool is we mostly focus after this point on the investigation of this, from like Sinclair and Jakar and all of them, and they go to they are going to the guy who runs the nightclub that she works at, and also like the guy who has all the dancers in the back, who looks like just like, his name is Ock. He's just the club owner. He's got like a big cigar. And just looks like a weird 1950s gangster, but also he's an alien. It's very silly. And he's like, yo, here's all the dancers. And then they like get the dancers to share the secrets of like where she went and where she's going. And then I also just really liked this scene, because this is another one where Sinclair is bringing a lot of like energy and happiness to his investigation. Like he's always like, when he knows what he's doing, he's so confident and like ready to go at a moment's notice. I end up finding it really funny, but in a good way. Like in the sort of like last scene of this plot, just to jump ahead a teensy bit, everybody's sitting around this table, and Jakar at the end of it is pissed because he's been used. He was told one thing, that he was gonna like buy something from the guy, and then it turns out that's not what they're doing. What they're really doing is Talia is getting what's his face,
Adira's
Trachis
location.
out of Adira's location out of Trachis, and it's just it's played almost like ridiculous and silly, because he's like,
the moment where they get it is very, very silly. Londo's like, take that and another kick.
She kicks his ass because she's like, you know, I'm a telepath, and he's like, wait, what did you said you weren't gonna bring? That's not fair. And then she's like, no, I'm only used for like if you say bad things. Definitely don't think about stuff like I don't know, like Adira's location, for example. And he's like, wait, what? And she's like, it's over there. And then Londo's like, sick, punch. It's like ridiculous.
Yeah.
In a good way, though. I think this show bounces back and forth between
like
really
it.
silly and really like serious.
I like it. Just a note on Sinclair.
Yeah.
I love Sinclair.
Yeah.
But I don't know, like, I love Londo in a way that's not ironic. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm starting to love Garibaldi in a way that's not ironic. I love Ivanova. I think she's great. Like, most of these characters, my affection for them is not based in, and here's this ridiculous part of them. Except maybe, like, the typical sci-fi, like, whoa, they got weird hair, they got a crazy costume, sort of stuff. But with Sinclair, it's like before every scene, somebody's grabbing him by the shoulders and saying, all right, man, so I want you to do this scene like Spaceballs, but serious.
Are you referring to this episode or the second one?
Everything that Sinclair does. His whole character is like he's the serious character in a slapstick comedy. Yeah,
he's the grumpy boss. But then, like, this scene where he's talking to the gangster guy, and then also in the end of the second episode, it's like sometimes Sinclair says really smart, poignant stuff, and then sometimes he's just, like, ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, everyone's freaking out. Like, just like, I don't know what that actor is going for sometimes.
Because, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Right. I don't know if the performance is, like, pinpoint what it needs to be yet. Or if it's clear to us, but maybe we're just, it's something that'll build over time. But yeah, I agree that it's really strange. Trachis, meanwhile, I forgot to mention, also says hi to Nagrath again, our favorite bug information dealer, which is cool.
Have we seen him before?
Yeah, he was in like the last episode, the Soul Hunter episode, where the Soul Hunter was like, hey, can I get maps? And then he's like, yeah, hell yeah, dude, what's up?
Oh, okay.
I got maps. So Nagrath is now a recurring boy. That stuff that we talked about, though, pretty much wraps up the episode. They save the girl, and then Londo has this really nice, like, almost profound conversation with Adira. And then he just kind of gets horny at the end. He's just like, oh, maybe someday I'll find a girl like that I can actually keep around, and like, you're still really beautiful. And it's like, Londo.
Well, he like tries to have his dignity by saying, listen, I've been in love many times. I've had my heart broken many times, and that's just how it's going to go, and it'll be okay. But you could stay if you want, and that feels real. That's how it goes.
Yeah, and he gives her his brooch, and then says, like, wear it proudly as a free woman. And she promises in that moment to come back to him, and it's like, oh, she gets her agency. She earned her agency, or it was given to her, I guess.
And then the last line is her saying, goodbye, my ambassador.
Yeah.
And it's like, even after all this and the love that they shared, at the end of the day, that's who you are, Londo. You're her ambassador. Job. Like, you are less important than your role.
Right. It's your
trapped
title.
By that. And it's like kind of sweet, but kind of sad.
Exactly. Yeah. Hey, Babylon 5 so far in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Kind of sweet, but kind of sad.
What I was reflecting on when I was watching this was that it seems like we always try to come up with like the thesis of a show, and to me so far the thesis of Babylon 5 is the writers going, and this is why we can't have nice things. Except, I mean, could we? No.
Could we?
No, we can't. But maybe we could.
Right. Well, there's such a hope to that. There's such a hope to, like, it's constantly going badly for people. And I think we're going to talk about it, but the end of the second episode is, like, pitch perfect what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Where it's like, how cool would it be if we could, oh, never mind. What? Okay. And there's an optimism, and there's a, like, we might as well keep going. It's worth it to keep going, like in the final interview scene. But
yeah, like, even though we know that the good things are doomed, peace is doomed, love is doomed, everything beautiful and wonderful that we could have is doomed to fail or to die. And we're going to try anyway. And that's the show.
Yeah, and I respect that a lot. I think that's very good. Did you have any stray notes about this episode?
Yes, I did, sir.
Delicious.
Okay, let's see. For some reason, my first note is just me writing, yes, and you can kiss my plump centauri. I think I forgot to write but.
But?
And I don't know what I was referring to.
I think Londo and Jakar were like being sassy at each other at the beginning.
There's a guy in the bar who says, hey, Hotspot, how about you and me blow this joint and go play Scan the Sector? And I just wrote, someone's nephew Neil did an okay job with that line.
Yeah, that I have a note about that, because that's the guy who's like trying to flirt with Jakar's new like Narn friend. Yeah. And she's like, and then she just like throws him, like he just like physically goes several feet. It's like, yeah, that's what you do. That's what you do to guys like that. Just take him out of the room. It's awesome.
Somebody says, these are my better days, Londo. Who says that? I think Adira says that. He's talking about like in my better. He says something about in my better days, blah blah blah, And she's like, these are my better days, Londo, because of you. Like, because of the work that you're doing as an ambassador. You're making the lives of your people better. Which is cool.
Yeah.
I was glad that she did the vampire accent, too.
So we know that it's a thing and it's not just a Londo thing?
Yeah, and it's not just him for no reason doing it.
Because Veer kind of does it, but in a different way, not as much.
Yeah. Okay, so either Londo's sex hair looks no different than his normal hair, or he always has just had sex
hair. We are coming to the episodes every time with him just coming from a fresh fuck. Like,
yeah, and that's why his hair looks like that.
Mm-hmm. His hair looks like a fan. Like, if he bowed at me, I would be cooled down. That's what I think.
Yeah. Trachis has a great line where he says, that's how they play the game, isn't it? Whispers in the dark, knife in the back.
Delicious.
Spooky.
Mm-hmm.
Spooky. What if we're seen together? Oh, drinking game, Babylon 5 drinking game. First rule,
Ooh.
Drink when Garibaldi punches a panel and says, damn!
Damn! Yeah, this was like perfect for our damn counter of him just going like, damn! Damn!
He did it like 5 times in a row.
Yeah, you'll be dead very quick.
Yeah.
If you're doing like shots. Did you have another one? Sorry.
Oh, I have a few.
Yeah.
The woman playing Adira is really good.
Yeah, like better than you think,
surprisingly
right?
strong performance for a side character in one episode kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
She
Fabiana Udenio is the actress's name.
It was one of those performances where I could tell exactly what the character was feeling just by looking at her face.
Right. She's Argentinian, fun fact.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
I wrote this week in Unnecessary Jokes. Londo says, oh, Sinclair's like, I'll only help you if you agree to my peace deal. And then Londo says, I shall even seal it with a kiss. And Sinclair says, that should make Jakar's day. It's like, okay, sure.
Okay.
Chuck Norris was in this episode very briefly.
Yeah, so that was going to be one of my notes. Like, part of them...
I'm out of notes, by the way, so you can do all yours.
Part of them, like, investigating this was they hired these two bounty hunters. And, yeah, one of them is straight up, like, Chuck Norris with, like, very cool sunglasses and a dumb pistol. And the other one is, like, a B-tier Star Wars villain in another leather jacket. They look awesome. They're, like, way too cool to be on this show. I love leather jackets. I love this guy's dumb sunglasses. It's just the right mix of, like, sort of modern cool with also, like, sci-fi cool.
I also like that those guys would have killed them.
Someone would have.
If the bounty hunters hadn't gotten the call that was like, all right, you don't have to worry about them anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, they really like pulled the emergency lever immediately. I had a part here about the Centauri, and then big fan of this was the thing when it was like Sinclair and Talia were sitting in the bar watching Londo and stuff. Sinclair is in this like crisp burgundy suit with like a blue dress shirt under it.
Yes, he
it's
is.
Like, oh, mwah, mwah, mwah. This is very good. This is a crispy suit. It's like kind of velour-esque. Like, I love this.
Yeah.
And then Talia just has like very 90s shoulder pads going on. My mom wore those a lot. I always think about that whenever I see people with shoulder pads.
Oh yeah.
It's like it was like originally a business lady thing, and then it was like, no, this is just like I'm going out kind of look. Funny moment, kind of subtle. Both Londo, when he gives Veer like basically access to being the ambassador for a day.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, he goes, just don't give away the homeworld, like the one thing you don't do. And then Veer's like, no, I got it. Like, this is gonna be awesome. He's like, don't give away the homeworld. And then later in the episode, Shakar does the same thing with Kodaf because he's dealing with the plot, and he says, just don't give away the homeworld. And it's like,
that's cute. Like that.
We're all of the same group of people at the end of the day. Big fan of the leather jackets. I was very confused at first with the Ivanova TV screen because I thought like something really nasty was going on. And again, this was one of those endings where it felt like it ended 5 times, and then it was like, and then Londo and the girl, and then they catch the guy, and then blah blah blah.
Yeah, the second one had a weird thing like that too.
Yeah.
A weird kind of final moment that we'll talk about.
And my final note was that Fabiana Udenio, who plays Adira, also played a lot of vagina in Austin Powers International Man of Mystery. So that's where we're at in the world. That's the first one, right? Yeah. Awesome. She's doing good work.
I remember being really sad when she turned out to be an evil robot at the beginning of the second one.
Oh, she was, yeah. She had like the boobs with like the laser boobs. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like, what?
I cried. No, not a lot of.
I trusted you.
I trusted you. Yeah, man. I can't wait till we do our Austin Powers podcast.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to bite my tongue, and I'm going to not say that that'll never happen, because who the fuck knows what the future might hold.
We can watch the first Austin Powers as a commentary.
Yeah,
and
why
just
not?
see if it holds up. I think there's value in that, revisiting comedy movies that were huge like 20, 25 years ago, and then seeing, how badly has this aged?
Right.
Because
it's not a question of does it age badly, it's like, but how badly?
Yeah, it's Austin Powers. It has aged badly, but yeah, to what extent?
Right. So stay tuned to the Patreon feed for that, maybe. And we will be right back after this fun little break to discuss Infection.
Welcome back to Chatzylon 5. The second episode we watched this week was Season 1, Episode 4, Infection. Written by J. Michael Straczynski, directed by Richard Compton. It aired February 18th, 1994, and it is set on Tuesday, March 8th, 2258. By the way, Alan, you're not born yet, right?
Shit, you're right. I am not born yet.
Yeah. So
I'm still a concept.
I'm born.
But, I'm happy you're born.
Alan's not born. Are we going to go the whole first season before you're born? Maybe, right?
I don't want people to know the day I was born.
We don't have to say the day, but,
I'll look into it.
Okay. Can you just look into it right now?
Yes, dude. Totally, dude. Of course I can. I will have been born before season 1 finished. Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, when we hit that point, it'll be a big celebration. We'll celebrate your birthday.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Okay. By the way, Alan, hello. You're still here, and I'm still here.
Yes.
What happened in this episode? Infection.
Well, Magellan, Dr. Franklin gets a visit from old friend and mentor, xenoarchaeologist Dr. Hendricks. He wants Franklin's help to analyze high-tech organic artifacts that he found on a dead world. The artifacts seem to have a will of their own, though.
Ooh.
Fuck.
Oh.
So
that's always the case with artifacts.
Yeah, they're never just artifacts.
It's never been fine when you find an artifact.
Well, so here's my favorite thing about this episode. Well, my favorite thing is the conversation at the end, but one of my favorite things is just Dr. Franklin really understands what our thing is with like aliens on the ship or artifacts on the ship. Like he knows like why would you dig up ancient things if all you're gonna find out is like, oh, they were evil, or like, oh, it was like a whole society. Like he doesn't understand the idea that you would bring this thing here and try to like research it and get research grants to discover old things. He's like, no, I deal with things that are alive and here and present. I don't deal with the past.
Right.
And I respect that a lot. I think Dr. Franklin comes out of this episode really like it does a lot to build our impression of him positively. Because we meet his doctor friend, Dr. Vance Hendricks, which is a very good name, who's a very ambitious guy, and he comes on, and he's like, yo, check out this sick rock I found. It's pretty cool. And they have a lot of good conversations, and then some bad stuff happens, and the episode gets kind of muddy there. But, I mean, what did you think of Infection in general?
It was kind of just a dumb sci-fi episode for a while, and then suddenly it became a Sinclair episode out of nowhere. And at first it was a ridiculous Sinclair episode, and then that scene hits with Garibaldi talking to Sinclair, and I was like, okay, I'm back on board. Babylon 5 is like the show.
It's the whole show.
Yeah,
there's a lot going on. They're juggling a decent amount of plates. Like one of the first things, and I think the first scene is Mrs. Kramer comes onto the ship. She's a news reporter for Interstellar Network News, and she's really charming and like very I guess spunky is the word, but she's like older, so it's not like she's not like a 13-year-old who's like, I'm gonna solve mysteries. She's like, I want to interrogate these people and understand why, because this is Babylon 5's second anniversary. So she's trying to like do an expose on the ship and the people who are on it and everything.
Yeah. Isn't it their first anniversary? Like it's been a year?
It has been 1 year. I think you're right. I have here written second anniversary, but I could be wrong. I think it was first.
I thought that's what it was.
Yeah, and she asks each of the crew members, she's trying to get each of the crew members to tell her something about the ship and what they think, or at least each of the like ambassadors, and you know, most of the time is talking to Garibaldi and having a lot of awkward where he's like, come on, interview me, I'm cool, like you should, well, whatever, like, you know, we don't want to have much going on here. And then she's like, hey, you were like fired like 5 times before you got on this ship, like what's up with that? And he's like, I don't want to be interviewed anymore. Basically. It's like ready for it and then not ready for it. And she spends the whole episode like trying to get to Sinclair, but then I thought it was funny that they're like, sorry, there's like a whole like plot, there's like an A plot going on, so he's really busy right now. Because there's probably an A plot going on Babylon 5 that Sinclair has to deal with like almost every day of the week.
Yeah, probably ones that we don't even see.
Like hundreds of them. Yeah. It's just like, oh, there's like a weird thing. Someone brought a weird thing on, or we have to like have some diplomatic stuff happening and all this. Like he's always going to be busy. He's not just going to be like, there isn't like a standard quiet day on Babylon 5. I don't think so.
Yeah, probably not.
Which she talks about, and it's cool that she is our lens to see what Earth thinks of the Babylon 5 project, the Babylon project.
Yeah.
Because, you know, she says like, hey, nobody thought you guys were going to make it. This idea of like, we brought a bunch of people together to help like humans and aliens get along. How the hell did that work? How did you guys make it this long? What was your secret? What was your whole thing? And she doesn't really get her answer until the very end when she talks to Sinclair. But yeah, I'm really fascinated as we go further going on, seeing how the people of Earth think about not only Babylon 5, but like conflict and what they want and what they're trying to do. Because there's like clearly there's factions and rebels that we know about, and you know they're all post Earth Minbari War, but there's obviously, we talked about like still elections and still national identity, all this stuff.
Yeah, it's the same stuff that we're dealing with in our current society with regard to globalization and then backlash to globalization. It's just that, but it's like spacization.
Yeah, well,
planetism instead of nationalism.
Right. You know, the conversation at the end was like, hey, was it worth it to go to space? And then Sinclair's like, hell yeah, it was worth it. Of course it was dangerous, but
that
super worth it.
scene was weird to me.
How so?
Because I mean, I get it. I think it's a great message, and I like his point that he's making at the end of, listen, one day all these scientists disagree on a lot of things, but the one thing they can agree on is that the sun at some point's gonna die, and then we're gonna have to go to space. But then, first of all, the one thing that's weird is he goes, it won't just take us. It'll take Marilyn Monroe and a bunch of other famous fucking people. Marilyn Monroe is the first person he names. Yeah. He's like, Marilyn Monroe, Mahatma Gandhi.
Yeah.
James Franco. Like,
what are the guy from the Six Flags commercials.
But it just tonally felt really odd and kind of tacked on. This is what I was referring to when we were talking in the first half about episodes having multiple endings in a row. It feels like Babylon 5 is doing a sort of like post-credits scene right after the last scene in a way that the pacing is always a little off, and it feels like it's J. Michael Straczynski just lecturing at the audience. I don't know. So I wasn't crazy about it, but I mean, there are parts of it I liked.
A perfect ending to this episode would be Ivanova saying, if you need me, I'll be over there getting drunk with the rest of the aliens. Bam, yeah. You did it. Perfect. Boom. Line, sums everything
hit the
up.
Theme, beautiful, in the character's voice. Yeah.
The interview thing could have like fit in somewhere else in the episode. It, as the final note, makes it like carry way more weight than it needs to. And it's like, yeah, I know. Like, space is good. That's like every sci-fi show that takes place in space is confronting what happens when we go there. That's kind of what they do.
That's a great point. Yeah, because I think if this scene happened like at the end of the second act or something, I would be raving about it and saying it's great. But I guess it is just a matter of prioritization. And it's a similar thing that we talked about with Ivanova's story with her dad.
Yeah.
Where the reason that we were bothered by it is because it was not prioritized in a way that felt proportional to what it could be. And so the same thing is here, but in the other direction, where they're placing undue stress on this thing that if you had just presented it as a kind of like mundane part of his job, then it would pack a lot more punch.
Yeah.
And like you're saying, it's much less didactic to have Ivanova gesture at the theme in the final moment, as opposed to Sinclair saying, and the moral of the story is go to space.
Well, because what you can do, and I don't mean to like tell the writers on this like 20-plus-year-old show how to do their job, but like have him do that in the end of the second act, and then have him talk to the Ikaran and be like, hey, Earth is pretty fucked up, but we're working hard towards it. Because that feels like a more linear progression of the theme than like ending on like, yeah, space is good. Yeah, I know space is good. And then what? And if the and then what is what happened 10 minutes up before that, where he like spoke to a parasite from another world about like why like racism is bad, basically.
Yeah.
It's pretty wild. Like,
and it also was odd to me because it kind of undercut. It felt, in the wrong order for the theme, and also in the wrong order for Sinclair's arc in the episode.
mm-hmm.
Because essentially by the end of the episode, and we're kind of jumping around and not telling the plot of the story, and I hope that's okay, because I kind of just want to talk about the scene with Garibaldi and Sinclair. Can we do that? Can we actually pause on this? I'll come back to this thought. Can we just tell the plot of the episode and get that out of the way?
Yeah, this is, why this is the summaries. Like, if this is why I'm always like, maybe I should just like write full episode summaries so that like that is out of the way and then we can get into things. But basically, the adventurer guy and his partner Kramer bring a artifact on the ship, and
that could create a living ship,
a blueprint for living machines, which is it's a cool Farscape crossover. Nelson Drake is his assistant's name. He touches the artifact. He becomes an evil Mega Man. They chase him through the ship. They find out that the parasite infecting him is of the Ikaran race, who, after decades of war, of getting almost wiped out, they made a weapon that made it so they had organic weapons which were designed to not respond to anyone who was not pure Ikaran. And the problem was that the people who defined what pure Ikaran was were like religious fanatics and extremists. So like a ton of them were deployed, and then basically they wiped out their own culture because nobody fit the definition of pure to them. And so this Ikaran realizes that, and Sinclair is like, look inside the mind of the guy you're in. And then he does, and he goes, oh shit, my planet's been like gone for 1,000 years. Rips his fucking heart out, dies, and Sinclair's like, I'm awesome. Also, Earth is good, and we should go to space.
Yeah, and we'll dig into that theme more in a second. But I just wanted to get to this scene of Sinclair talking to Garibaldi.
Sure.
And because throughout Sinclair's fight with this beefed up, super scary organic cyborg guy who can shoot beams from his hand, throughout the whole fight, I'm like, why is the commander of Babylon 5 the guy who's fighting this guy?
He takes they have a bunch of soldiers who have guns, and he's like, give me your gun. And one of them just gives it to him, and he's like, I'll take care of it. I'm ready to do a noble sacrifice.
And it's like, why, dude?
That is
not
idea.
The best use of you. And then he's down there, and he's like, Ivanova, seal the things, just kill this thing. And she's like, but you'll die. And he's like, yeah.
Worth it,
but
hell yeah.
I don't care. I'm going to die anyway. And she's like, okay, I'll just kill you, commander of Babylon 5. So through the whole thing, I'm like, what is going on? And then blessedly, and this is where Babylon 5, they really got me in episode 3 with Londo. I was like, I love this. This is great. And then this is when they really sold me on, don't worry, Magellan, we're not going to do stuff like that. Because Garibaldi sits down with Sinclair and he's like, hey, that didn't make any fucking sense. You being down there fighting that thing was a bad idea.
Yeah.
The fact that you're doing that means that you are trying to die. You are trying to commit suicide by like heroic act because you have nothing else that makes your life meaningful. The line that he says is, some people call that being a hero. Maybe so. I don't know. I've never been one. I think they're looking for something worth dying for because it's easier than finding something worth living for.
Yes. Yes. Slam dunk Garibaldi.
Yeah. And then Sinclair says, finished? Because he's just like, he's right. Garibaldi says, yeah, I guess that covers it. Garibaldi leaves, or goes to leave. And then Sinclair says, Michael, I don't have an answer for you. And I think maybe I should. Thanks. Anyway, so like that should be done. Sinclair's done for the episode. He's saying, thanks for telling me that I'm trying to kill myself by being a big hotshot. And you don't have to show Sinclair anymore. But then they show him again in that final scene, and it kind of, to me, undercuts the revelation that he makes in that scene. Because in the final scene, he has this still kind of surface level, blasé confidence about his mission and his role. And I would have preferred it a lot more, I think, if we'd seen him in the interview and then we saw, well, actually, these are the things that he's like not confronting. He's sort of letting the mission disguise the fact that he's dealing with some pretty serious psychological issues and hang-ups that he's not doing anything about. So I don't know. I mean, it's fine. Like we're harping on this scene and its placement just for the sake of the thought exercise. Ultimately, the message comes across and we get all this information, and the episode is still good. It's just something I think is worth thinking about.
Absolutely, and that's what our show is for like digging way into deeper into stuff than the show even asks you to. To play devil's advocate a little bit, I mean, part of it is that they mention it's not only the fact that he's being sort of like trying to die in a blaze of glory because he has nothing to live for, but also a lot of people coming out of the Earth-Minbari War have a need to be the hero because they just kind of won, and they like all want, like when you're in a war for that long with an entire other society, you tend to form like a sort of like human identity that strengthens, and B, a like hero complex of like, I want to be the guy on the front lines who goes out in a cool way. And that's where Sinclair is coming from. But also, putting that scene before the interview suggests that he is in the interview saying, no, this is what I'm here to live for. I'm here to confirm that it's worth going to space. Right. I don't know. I'm just saying as like a different opinion. Like that's
that's a good point. I think it's also the fact that he sits down to have the interview at all, I guess, is a significant character moment because you've been dodging it.
Right.
Okay. All right. Well, then I take it back.
It's a lot of this episode. Again, I'm constantly struggling with like, is this what this episode is about, or is this what the show is about? It's like deciding what's worth caring about, which I love. And this is why we're critical of this stuff, is because that's like the best, most ripe ground for like development in any TV show. Is like, what do I live for? What is my purpose? And like people questioning that, because that's the most human question we can ask.
And it also kind of relates to the whole role of being an ambassador, you know, where you have to make decisions about, well, what is it that I actually care about in this situation? What am I not willing to compromise on? And where am I willing to let them have a little something?
Right, exactly. And it goes back to Dr. Franklin's whole conversation with his buddy Hendrix, where he's like, I understand that. I love this conversation. I love this like back and forth from a doctor and an archaeologist talking about like,
his like, it used to be about the music, man, kind of conversation.
And basically, well, he's like, you know, everybody, you're like, what's the point of archaeology if you're just working? The only people who are funding your shit are corporations who are going to steal anything you find that's a weapon. They're going to take it and they're going to use it to like kill people, and that's the only thing that's going to get you paid, and that's the only thing you're going to get done. And you know, Hendrix is like, no, but like the things I have seen in my adventures would blow your fucking mind, and they're all amazing, and they're like life affirming, and it's worth exploring. Also, and he just it's another like the writer sneaking a dig in at real life, where he's like, also, nobody in their, like, no philanthropist or charity group in their right mind would ever give enough money to fund an archaeological dig except for a corporation.
Yeah.
Like, that's the reason that corporations fund this stuff, is because no one else is going to do it. It's not just because, like, we chose that. It's like we have no other option. We're not going to get, like, a bunch of college students to raise money for us.
Right.
We're going to get IPX, interplanetary expeditions, who, again, just to confirm that the show is taking the side of Franklin, they confirm at the end of the episode interplanetary expeditions is, like, a front for a bioweapons division. Like,
Yeah.
that's, or they're a developer, yeah. And it's like, yeah, that's who you're working for. You should understand that and come to terms with that. And if you finished your mission here, you would have given weapons to a, like, war company.
Yeah.
So deal with that.
I also, there's a dimension to that argument between Dr. Franklin, is that right?
Yeah, yeah.
And Hendricks, where really Franklin's principal objection doesn't seem like it's about weapons and about continuing the cycle of violence. It seems like his principal objection is, if you do this, you're just stealing things that other people made, and you're not making anything yourself.
Yep.
That's a cool thing to know about Franklin, that what he really wants, and Hendricks says it's like, you want it to be the next Salk, you want it to be the next other famous doctor.
Yeah.
He wants to be the guy that makes the cure for something. It's not about, like, success or money or about even discovering something. It's about inventing something. And
right.
that
Create
is
and not destroy.
And that's a distinction that we don't see happen a lot with, like, kind of academic characters that dispute between discover something that was made before versus create something totally new. You wouldn't think that those things would be in conflict with each other philosophically, but there is a conflict there.
Right, and it's important that we have a character on the show who is saying that stuff about exploring other cultures, because, like, this is sort of a counter to the Indiana Jones way of thinking of, like, this thing is so important, we got to put it in a museum. And it's like, no, just don't touch it. It's not yours to touch. This thing, like, this society burned and like burned down because it destroyed itself in a really unfortunate way. And all we're getting out of recovering it is, A, we're hurting people, and B, we are having to confront our own connections to this society, which is what the end of the episode posits, where I think it's like Garibaldi and Ivanova are like, shit. And it's a really funny moment, but they're like, well, at least this isn't going to happen to us. Like, at least we're not going to have, like, a sort of, like, supremacy on Earth where, like, certain people consider themselves better. That would be really bad, wouldn't it? And then this dude is like, hey, so we found the weapon and we're giving it to Earth Force and they're going to confiscate it. And they're like, oh.
Yeah. Same shit, different sandwich.
100%. And then that's when she's just like, yeah, I'll go drinking with the aliens. I like to think she was, like, raising her voice for that line, being like, hey, Earth people, fuck off. You're trapped in your own loop forever.
Yeah.
It's very good. This is the crunchy, like, philosophical stuff that this show does that I just adore.
I'm into it, yeah, for sure.
I have a ton of, like, all over the place stray notes.
Yeah, let's
though.
just do it. Let's just
yeah, we hit all the big stuff. Let's just fuck it up, Kenneth, and get into our things here.
Yeah.
I love Dr. Franklin, period. I relate to him a lot. Mm-hmm. And also, his first line, he's like, speaking of him wanting to discover stuff, his first scene is him just, like, doing cool shit with a microscope. And he says the line, I've just about got the RNA strand where I want it. And I was like, what are you saying? What are they saying? Like, it's just a good line. It doesn't mean anything. Do you know what an RNA strand is, buddy?
Yeah.
It's just good, like, silly sci-fi shit.
Why don't you do all yours and then I'll do mine?
Sure. Just to admit, yeah. I believe it is Hendricks who, when they're having that conversation, ends it by being like, savor the mystery, Stephen. We don't get nearly enough of them. Which, savor the mystery is a really good line. I just love that. And it establishes that, like, even though Hendricks is portrayed as wrong at the end of this episode, he still has a good point.
Yeah, there's still something to learn from him.
Right, exactly. There's always something to learn. And he's like, they start the episode by being like, hey, old friend, like, person who I like and spent a lot of my young years with. Like, it's not like they hate each other. they come at each other from wanting to understand each other's ideologies.
True.
This episode made me realize that the theme song says a place for humans and aliens to get along, which is fascinating because humans aren't aliens, I guess. But aren't we just aliens? Isn't that like what the show is trying to posit? Is that we're no better than anyone else? But the show still says humans and aliens, and it feels like they're confronting that in a way that like maybe that'll change in future theme songs.
Yeah, maybe.
But it's not just like that wasn't they do talk about that. It's not just like a line in the theme song that gets thrown away. I really liked all the scenes of the people being like just sitting on computers and being like, oh shit, energy spike, what's going on? And they cracked open the archaeology box, the blueprint for living machines. Now I'm all scared. It's got like green Hulk lightning in it. And related to like, I just love all the staff on the ship. I love that they have night shifts. Garibaldi is like, all right, guys, we did all of our shit. Let's go to bed. And the night guy will take care of it. And it's like, wait, space?
Yeah.
Night shift. But I guess since the nature of the cylinder means that they have cycles, like probably like a full rotation is a day because I think they're facing a sun. So they can still have a day in Babylon 5, which is interesting. I kept making jokes about Mega Man. And then they straight up they straight up bring up Nazis in the conversation about the Akarans. They're talking about like, oh, you're just like you're just like the Nazis. You're doing the thing where like I've heard of this before, where some of you think you're better than everyone else, and if we get rid of them, then we'll like clean out the society. This sounds very familiar. Thinking. And that whole scene where Sinclair is talking to the Akaran, he's like really overacting in a very strange, bizarre way, where he's just like,
yeah, it's intense,
eyes wide open, like kind of yelling, and like his hair is all like crazy, and he's like, we're all aliens to one another, flawed, impure, we all freaking suck. And and then he has that line, which I don't know if it's just a cool sounding line or if it's actually good, where he says, when you become obsessed with the enemy, you become the enemy. Which I
think it's good. I think that's a good line.
Right? Yeah. It's like, okay, he's saying a lot of things. This line just happens to come in there, and I was like, wait, that's okay. And then I really liked that the episode at the end decided to like confront the sort of biases of Earth and be like, yeah, well, we're not having any of that. We're choosing to get away from that as a people. Yeah. That's what I got.
Cool. There's a line towards the beginning where Garibaldi, someone's like, when are you going to get this done? And he says, longer than a little while, faster than later. It's like, yeah, I like just Garibaldi walking on for lines like that and then leaving. That's great.
Just like a silly dad.
I picked up on something from the intro, a line where they say that this is the last of the Babylon stations.
Yeah, all the other ones were destroyed.
I know, but it's not that they're saying it's the most recent. They're saying it's the last one.
Oh.
So does that mean that this one is going to last forever, or that it's going to blow up and they're not going to do anything to make another one? What does the word last mean?
I almost thought about Googling what happened to the other stations, but that's probably like huge.
I think there'll be episodes about that, yeah.
They will. I just confirmed it.
Yep. Hendrix looks like George Bush Sr., kind of, but like in a funhouse mirror.
Yeah. He totally does. You're right.
Let's see. I really didn't think we were going to get a Steven episode, and I think or a Franklin episode.
Yeah.
And I think the writers gave up on it being that halfway through and made it a Sinclair episode.
Yep, totally.
Sinclair is the master of the high status closed mouth laugh and head turn. It's sort of like,
Yep.
He says this line, like, this is the line where I'm like, what are they telling him to go for? Because he's talking about something, I don't remember what it is, and he
Sinclair
says,
is?
Yeah, I don't remember what they're talking about, but he says, you couldn't find it with a hunting dog and a Ouija board. And it's like, is that supposed to be like, is that supposed to be this sort of like folksy thing, or is it supposed to be this photo comparison of Bush and the guy.
Vance Hendricks. Yeah, that's very similar.
Is this supposed to be funny? Because I thought it was funny, and I guess it's supposed to be. I don't know.
Yeah, well,
his tone is like odd.
How much they do or don't lean into Sinclair being like a Southern guy is always weird. Because like if you're gonna do that, just go John Crichton, like do it.
Yeah.
But don't like half do it.
Yeah. Let's see. I wrote that I think the point of this episode is to teach us that the Doctor's first name is Stephen, because every one of Hendrix's lines is about calling him Stephen.
Stephen? Blah 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 blah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Stephen Franklin.
I'm noticing the ensemble is like looser in this show than I expect it to be. There's no like place where everyone hangs out.
Yeah, we haven't seen Delenn in like 2 episodes.
Yeah. And Londo wasn't in this one at all, or Jakar. So it'll be interesting to keep track of how central individual characters are to certain episodes.
Yeah, it's a bit more realistic to me.
Yeah.
I don't know how it works with like salary, because like actors often get paid for how much they are on screen.
Right.
So there are just entire episodes where no one's on there, and it's like, yeah, in real life, you're not like Delenn has nothing to do with this. But like, is that actress getting paid enough? I don't know. But it's cool. I like it.
Yeah. I only have 2 notes left. The one thing about the Garibaldi Sinclair scene that was jarring to me was when Garibaldi called him Jeff, and I was like, oh yeah,
Jeff.
I forgot
Jeff.
that his name is Jeff.
Not only is his name Jeffrey, but it can be shortened to Jeff, and it will be by this guy. Yeah.
And then the other note that I have is just that Sinclair clearly invested enough points into charisma that he could see the dialogue option that makes the villain kill themselves instead of having to fight
the
them.
end of Fallout 1, yeah.
Yeah, it's the end of Fallout 1. Yeah.
Oh boy. Yeah, it's a fun one. I like, usually by the time we get to our second episode discussion, I'm like, ugh, this one's fine, whatever, and I like don't feel like I give it enough of a shot. But this one I was like, sure. Do it, Babylon 5. Go for it.
Yeah.
Do your thing.
Yeah.
So for next week, though, I'm curious what we're going to be watching on Chatzylon 5.
Oh, you're curious, huh?
I'm Mercurio, yeah.
I bet you want me to tell you, huh?
What is this character? I love
you want me
him.
to tell you, huh? It's
like, nope.
the guy who forgot to pull it up, and now he's stuck in this Amazon commercial, and he's trying to get out of it. Okay, you ready? Now, this summary of the first episode we're watching next week is did I read this on air? I don't remember if I did. I don't think I did. We got off the call and then I read this to you because this got me very excited. Next week we're watching 2 more episodes of Babylon 5. The first is season 1 episode 5, The Parliament of Dreams. By the way, amazing title.
Yep.
The show has amazing episode titles across
so is the next
board.
One. Oh.
There's not a bad episode title.
True.
There are some that are like whatever, like Survivors is fine.
Infection, like okay, gets the point
But
across.
there are no bad ones. Okay,
Yeah.
The Parliament of Dreams. An assassin stalks Jakar while a conference on the religious beliefs of various alien cultures takes place. Already, I'm on board.
Fire.
Sentence number 2. Sinclair meets an old girlfriend.
Oh,
Yes.
fuck me up.
Yes.
Fuck
Thank
it
you.
up.
Perfect. Perfect pairing. Sumptuous.
Sumptuous. That's like meatballs with sauce. That's really good. I want Jakar. I want to fall in love with Jakar. I'm ready.
I'm ready too. The second episode we're watching is season 1, episode 6, Mind War.
10 times
Talia's,
better name.
Yeah. Talia's former lover and teacher, or Talia's former lover and teacher, who can kill with pure thought, flees from the cops and ends up on Babylon 5.
Are you joking? Babylon 5? Oh my god, I love it. I fucking love it. Oh, he's a dude. Never mind. I don't love it. I thought it was going to be like a cool lady. That's fine. I'll allow it. Gays weren't invented until the year 2000. Anyways, thank you. Thank you, dear listener. Thank you, Magellan. First of all, shout outs to Magellan. Continuing this era of chats where we record from a damn high school, doing the damn work, doing the damn thing, and bringing you the show that just keeps going. So if you want to help us keep going, you can go ahead and check out our Patreon, patreon.com/chatspod. Over there, if you donate at $2 a month, just give up one coffee a month, dude. Like, it's nothing.
Yeah, come on.
Less than a coffee if you're at Starbucks.
Just eat one less kind bar.
Yeah, you don't eat that kind bar. It's gonna make you poopy afterwards.
Yeah,
you can get
commentary. Hey,
chats.
sometimes maybe you want to be poopy.
Sometimes then you just get one of those.
Sometimes you're too poopy.
Yeah, it's way too poopy. What? Yeah, check out commentary chats for $2 a month. You get us watching movies. If you like hearing us talk about movies and watching them, you get to do that. We're gonna be watching Labyrinth in October, and it's gonna be a spooky time. At $5 a month, you can listen to Chats Nights, which is an every other week podcast where we just kind of tell stories and have fun and like have a nice. It's short. It's like a little snackum. Majan, did you know that a snackum is a real thing?
Really?
It's a thing.
Snackum.
We've been saying snackum for years now, just being like, oh, snackums, like, like a small snack food.
Okay. How are you spelling
Snackum is like a
it?
small. I'm not sure exactly. Someone told me this. Yeah. Here it is. Snack apostrophe MMS.
Snack
They're pickles. They're small pickles, dude.
Apostrophe.
I just sent you the page of it if you want to look at that. Snackums. It's fucking wild.
Oh my god. Just a classic
right?
Vlasic Snackum.
It's just Vlasic. Get out of here, Vlasic.
Oh, somebody passed me the garlic Snackums.
So maybe people thought when we say like, oh, it's a nice tasty snackum, they thought we were talking about pickles. We didn't know that.
Oh, these little pickles. I've had little pickles like this. I didn't know that they were called snackums.
So you've had snackums and a snackum.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
I've had a delicious Vlasic.
That's the worst name in the world.
It's a tongue twister. A delicious Vlasic kosher dill snackum pickle.
Forgot the noun. Pickle. Anyways, check that out. Email us, chatspod@gmail.com, at chatspod, CHATZPOD on Twitter. That's where you can get at the show. Magellan, where can people find you on the online?
They can find me online on Twitter at JustAFluke. That's JUSTAPFLUKE. I tweet about once every few years, so you're in for something eventually. You can also listen to my currently on hiatus program called Adulthood at adulthood.simplecast.fm, and it'll come back as soon as I figure out how to be a teacher without dying. I'm not dying. Without only getting 4 hours of sleep a night.
Magellan, are you serious?
Yeah. Yes.
Baby.
Oh, baby. Alan, what about you, dude?
You can listen to me on 2 other podcasts. One is also on hiatus. It's called Fireside Friends. It's found at firesidefriends.net. It's where my friends Ryan, Katie, and I talk about pop culture. And you can listen to me on a currently updating podcast called The Garnet Wager, where my friend Six and I watch the Korean game show The Genius, and we play and invented a little macro game called Fantasy Genius. We're going to be starting Season 3 very soon. We're taking a couple weeks off just to rejigger the rules and, make sure everything is fun for the listener as well as for us. So check those things out.
Yeah.
I feel like instead of a social media plug, since I'm not on social media anymore, I'm off the grid. I'm going to give you...
You know what we should do?
Yeah, what up?
Is we should just give people, like, what's a little thing that you read or you watched?
Oh, like a little waypoint?
Yeah,
sorry.
on the Political Gab Fest, they do cocktail chatter, which is a pretentious way of presenting it. But just like, I saw this thing. If you want to think a thought, go look at it.
What are we going to call those? Chatsums?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, I'm writing. Yeah,
why did you ask that as if there was going to be a better idea?
Then chatsums. All right, what's your chatsum this week, boy?
I'm just really invested in this Eminem Machine Gun Kelly beef, dude.
Oh my god.
These guys are beefing.
Yeah, they're pretty pissed.
Oh, they're pissed. I don't have one because I didn't think about it. But say you were going to do something totally different. For some reason, I assumed you were going to do this, and I was setting you up with a segment.
Well, mine was kind of this. We pretty much had a mind meld there. Mine was going to be we just recommend people do things, but that's way less likely to happen than like check out
you could do that too, like a habit or like a thing that you did. That's a snack. That's a chatsum.
That's a so my chatsum this week is going to be if you have access to a movie theater and the money to go buy a movie ticket, just like go like look up screenings of old movies in your local theater and just like go watch a movie you haven't seen before. I feel like people have so many all of the problems that we have with watching movies in the theater these days, like everything's expensive and the ads and it's uncomfortable and it's crowded. All of that goes away when you go watch a screener because there's no commercials usually, and you're watching a movie that's already known to be good because that's why it's getting a screening, so you don't have the feeling of like, oh, did I waste $15? It's usually cheaper than a regular movie ticket, and you get to have a little exclusive feeling of like, oh, I watched a thing that was like in theaters for like a weekend and then it's gone. Like, go do that. Just check it out.
Or like you're saying like limited release things, or also like classic movies that are being screened.
Both. Either. Just go to a movie theater.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think that it's so much more is lost than we realize when you watch a movie at home versus in the theater. So if it's something that is good and you've like seen it before, see it in the movie theater. Even if it's something like, one of my favorite movie going experiences was I went in New York to Nighthawk Cinema.
Yep.
And on New Year's Day, I watched When Harry Met Sally. I'd seen When Harry Met Sally before, and that's not a movie that has like explosions and would be great in the theater, but there's something, that's kind of religious or spiritual or whatever about visiting the time in history when that movie was in theaters,
right, and
experiencing it the way that it was experienced when it first was there. I don't know. So yeah, well, I'll piggyback off that for now, and then we'll both have chatsums next week.
Delicious portable chatsums. My other addendum to that one is like, being like, go watch a movie in a theater makes us can make us sound like old people, but one, too bad, and two, screenings are way cheaper than like seeing a new movie in theaters.
I think the difference is like, we're not saying that you should never watch a movie on your phone. That's bad.
David Lynch.
No, you can have an experience with a movie on your phone, but it's like, there's a difference between watching a recording of a play and seeing a play. And maybe that difference is bigger than the difference between a movie on a screen versus a movie on a phone. But it's a different experience. And if you want to spend an afternoon and you've got the money and you want to hang out with somebody but you don't really want to talk to them, it's a great thing to do.
Yeah, maybe like sometimes you'll be like, oh, very serious like Italian film, and if you're into that, fucking rock on. Sometimes they're screening a Dragon Ball Z movie at the Fenway Theater, and you're like, sure, why not? It's 5:00 in the afternoon on a Monday, like let's fucking do it. And then you do it, and then you go walk around the Target nearby, and then you buy a Lego minifigure. These are things you can just do with your life, so I recommend it. But yeah, that's what we have this week. Thank you so very much for listening to this episode of Chatzylon 5.